What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the City Light Project YouTube channel for an event recap video where I will give my thoughts on the fights from the Fulton Inoue card taking place in Tokyo, Japan earlier today. I will give my thoughts on the winner's performance and my general reaction to some of the fun fights on the card. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's get right into it.
Round 3.
So the first fight that we were able to see in North America, Takei was coming in at 7-0. He was undefeated. Baldonado from the Philippines, actually. Same age, more experience in the ring, having a 16-5 record. Takei defeated Ronnie Baldonado via KO TKO 1 minute into the third round. And here are some of my notes on that fight. Takei had unbelievable pressure throughout the entire fight. All the rounds that they were swinging, all 3 rounds. I don't think he took one step backwards. I don't think Baldonado even tried or had any room, space, time at all to take a step forward. That's how much pressure was on him throughout that fight. I don't think his back hit the ropes once, that of Takei. Solid high guard. It was hard for his opponent to pierce through it. Very hard hooks. Like, I don't think he even utilized his jab much at all. Obviously, a few times to set up some combos and or to gauge the distance, but to really do damage on his opponent, I don't think jabs were even part of the game plan. It was just hook after hook, and they were hard hooks. This actually forced Baldonado to raise his guard higher and higher, which opened him up for some body shots. Now, it wasn't a complete domination, as early in the second round, he took a hard big hand, and even after that, didn't employ the jab. Switched it up a little from pretty much only hooks in the first round to mixing in some straight punches as well. His timing was incredible. Timing those counter shots, timing straight punches right off any of the counters that Baldonado was throwing. He'd also time big left hands whenever Baldonado would crouch forward or when he leaned right or left to escape any of those hooks. Wherever Baldonado's head was going, he was getting tagged whenever he dropped low. Beautiful liver shot, 2:03 on the clock, 1 minute and 8 seconds into the third round. And as we see, even as mixed martial arts fans, kickboxing fans, and Muay Thai fans, those liver shots, there's usually a little bit of a delay, and there it was. It was a beautiful step in. It was a beautiful shot to the body, and then we saw him wince like 2-3 seconds after, and Baldonado dropped to the ground. Delayed reaction. The ref knew too. There was no need for a count. TKO. I feel like the game plan was executed perfectly because it's not like Baldonado took away the opportunity for the jab at all because he was moving so much. It was just hooks, straight punches, and relentless pressure. He was rewarded, and now he is 8-0.
Round 1. Fight!
Up the card, an 8-round war here. Now, it didn't go the distance as top Japanese prospect Kanamu Sakama defeated Ryu Horikawa via KO TKO at 2:40 of the 8th round. Like I said, almost went the distance. And honestly, this was a great scrap. This was a great fight. I was entertained right until the end. Now, on paper, when I started watching this fight and I went over both of these guys' resume, I thought to myself, wow, another layup for the undefeated kid that Japan's trying to push. I mean, textbook boxing. I didn't think that Ryu Horikawa coming into this was really any threat at all, coming into it at 3-1. Boy, was I wrong. Now, early, you could really see why Sakama is revered, is being pushed, is talked about so much. The guy has so much skill. Seriously, the guy has so much skill. And in the first 3 rounds, we saw that on display. He was dragged into deep water a little bit as Horikawa just never backed down. Whenever he's being pressured on the back foot, he always seemed to come back with some combos. He did tag Sakama a few times with some big shots. I just don't think he has big knockout power because he hit him clean at some points, and you didn't see the head be knocked back like you see on fighters when they get tagged by those big power punchers. Regardless, I was very impressed in the later rounds how he started to come back and really test the young Sakama, and tested he was, but he freaking rose to the occasion and started to put everything together at the end. And big shout out to Horikawa, who had not fought in 14 months coming into this bout. Horikawa really looked good employing counter punches throughout pretty much the entire fight, but especially in the first 2 rounds. And this was while being pressured early. Back and forth first round. Sakama, I think, won it though. Doesn't move his head much, but does have a really good guard. Horikawa, he did employ a solid 1-2, but again, that second shot just never had that power that we've seen fighters like Inoue, for example, when he employs the 1-2. Sakama had some beautifully timed uppercuts throughout this fight, guys, especially in the second and third round. And he would tag Horikawa quite often whenever Horikawa entered or exited the pocket with those uppercuts. And with the hooks, he forced Horikawa to drop his hands quite a bit. He also forced Horikawa a ton of times in the first 3 rounds to lower his guard because he was tagging him up with the body shots, those step-in body shots, as well as some solid ones in the pocket there. Not a lot of clinch work by either of them, which is what I love about Japanese fighters. They just go at it. They just go to war. They're just very technical in their striking in that sense, and they don't employ a lot of the dirty boxing. But when there was any case of that, there was a lot of attacking of the body. And again, mixing it up was Sakama. It's like he added and or showed more and more of his arsenal and his tools as the fight went on, and then was able to put it all together at the end. Sakama was better at popping in and out of the pocket, but for the most part controlled the fight at range. Like I said, with the uppercuts, you can apply that to other straight shots as well. Horikawa was getting punished as he entered or left the pocket. Now I'm pulling counter left jabs with ease. I figured by the 4th round, based on what we've seen thus far, that Sakama had pretty much figured out his opponent by the end of the 4th. I was wrong, as in the 5th, 6th, and 7th, Horikawa kind of came to life, started landing more strikes, was able to land combos, didn't seem phased by the pressure as much as he was in the first 3 rounds. Again, at the end of the 4th, I even wrote in my notes, pure domination in that 3rd round, in that 4th round. Sakama, his step back shots to the body or the head were a thing of beauty. Right side or left. We saw a lot of the left ones to start off the fight, if I'm not mistaken, but by the end of it, we saw him employing both. Beautiful step back shots. His accuracy was amazing. Wherever Horikawa's head went, those shots went. Not a lot of head movement when they were facing each other, when they were gauging the distance. Hell, even on the back foot. But as he charged forward, very smart in the way he placed his head. Very technical on the offense anyways, moving his body and his head. It just seemed like when he was standing there in the pocket, especially in the first 3 rounds, Sakama was just very stiff. He just can't stand so straight all the time. He does need to improve his overall head movement. But on the offensive side, he looked damn good. And like I mentioned, Horikawa, decent flurries of combos. Started to put it together in the 6th round. But every time he threw a combo forward, Sakama answered, making this such a good back and forth war by the time it hit the 5th, 6th, and 7th round. Starting to employ even more flashier combos with some decent power behind them was Sakama late in the 6th round. Left jab on the step-in uppercut, man, it was gorgeous. And as soon as that 7th round started, man, Horikawa showed at this moment in the fight, more so than any other moment, that he wanted to go to war, that he wanted to stand and bang, that he was down to trade, and it was awesome. But that left jab, that Sakama had basically mastered the timing to at that point, was starting to get the better of Horikawa, despite Horikawa being able to land flurry of combos and not get as tagged up on his entries and exits. And by the start of the 8th, this is where Sakama was dragged into deep water. That 7th round was the best round by Horikawa, in my opinion. And yet, Sakama put everything together. And I talked about this in the beginning of the recap. The jab was perfect. The step back shots were perfect. The body shots were good. The timing, the head movement on the entry, on the offense was good. And just the power overall, he had that on his opponent. He put it all together at the end of the 7th and at the start of the 8th round. Look, Horikawa is tough as nails, but once that bell rung for the 8th round, first shot landed by Sakama. Ends up throwing beautiful combos. Everything is landing. Knocks out the mouthpiece of Horikawa before tagging him with a right and left for the TKO. Great performance. Probably one of his bigger tests in his career thus far. And he is now 9-0, still undefeated in pro boxing. What a fun fight that was.
Round 2, fight.
Up the card in the co-main event of the evening, we had the first of 2 title fights on the line. We had Robeisy Ramirez defending his belt against Satoshi Shimizu. Ramirez ended up defeating Shimizu. KO TKO 1 minute and 8 seconds into the 5th round. Satoshi Shimizu, former Olympic boxing champion for Japan, started pro boxing late at 30 years of age and has gone on a hell of a run, 11-1 going into this fight, fighting for his first title. Robeisy Ramirez, 12-1 going into this, and he was the huge favorite as well, minus 2,500. He was shorter. He didn't have as much reach as his opponent. Shimizu stood 5'11", 37 years old, whereas Ramirez 29. But I don't think age, I don't think cardio or anything like that weighed in on this one. I just think Shimizu, he got outclassed, and the game plan going in by Ramirez was amazing. Ramirez also hit so much harder. Shimizu was a dog. Shimizu lasted quite a bit, and he tried to employ his game plan. You kind of understood quickly in that first round what his path to victory was, and that was range, shots on the outside, utilizing those big arms, employing uppercuts. Now, I know tall, lanky guys usually don't have good uppercuts, but Shimizu does. Ramirez planned for all of that. Ramirez nullified most of that, and he outstruck Shimizu by a crazy margin. I mean, Shimizu, I think, only landed 3 punches in the first round. By the third round, he had thrown over 150. I think he landed like 20-something. It just shows how crisp and clean the game plan of Ramirez was, and he executed it perfectly. Early, though, in the first round, Shimizu did a great job of managing the distance, being able to stay at least out of reach of Ramirez. Ramirez's shorts and gloves were awesome, by the way. The fight kit, he crushed it. Ramirez was able to get through that high guard of Shimizu with ease, and even when he was just tagging up the guard with combos, even when he wasn't able to slice it, you could still see that Shimizu, he was not liking any of that, as Ramirez hit hard. Huge shots in the pocket, like I said, even through the guard of Shimizu. Unbelievable counters, uppercuts, and 3-punch combos all day, every round, ladies and gentlemen. Good defense is pretty much nothing if Shimizu's got through in that first and second round. In the first round, Shimizu threw a lot, but he barely even threw punches in the second. And though the first round was probably the most competitive round of the fight, you could see in the second round that Ramirez, I mean, he's just outclassing him, and there was levels to this. Shimizu did do his best work when he leaned on his jab, and he was able to start implementing the jab a little bit more like he did in that first round, except actually getting through and landing on his opponent in the third. But Ramirez quickly was able to gauge the timing of that and just punished Shimizu with counters. And not even just counter strikes. We're talking counters, step-in combos on the counters. 2 to 4 counter combinations. Southpaw versus Southpaw was interesting, especially when one guy was like a gangly alien with crazy reach, standing 5'11", for guys weighing 125 pounds. So it was a lot of defensive boxing and counterboxing, and I feel like Ramirez just crushed it. Felt so at home with that style and game plan. There was so much distance to cover as well, and he did such a good job. Basically dictating the fight after the first round. Such a hard hitter, stupidly accurate. Seriously, like landing rate percentage up in front of me here, but I imagine it's in the upper echelon. I imagine it's high for this fight. Just constantly punishing Shimizu body and head, kind of controlling, where his next target was. So good with the step-in right hooks, both to the face and the body. And Shimizu tried to employ some of those uppercuts that he's known for as, again, a lengthy fighter. In the uppercut, in the pocket, couldn't land anything. Clinch, dirty boxing, in the pocket. He couldn't get any of those uppercuts or hooks to land clean on Ramirez. And this is nothing new for Ramirez. 6.9 punches per round average land on Ramirez. That's hardly anything, guys. So he's very, very good with his footwork, with his head movement, with his guard. Unbelievable right hook in the pocket too. Coming from being covered up, again, his accuracy and power is just tremendous, and he put on an absolute clinic in this fight. Shimizu, towards the end of the 4th round, started to just let his hands go a bit. And when he did, he actually landed some decent shots. He kind of just threw caution to the wind and we're just throwing hooks like a madman. Didn't have a lot of head movement, like I said. Threw caution to the wind, wasn't really technical, kind of abandoned technique and just started to brawl. But it kind of worked for him in that 4th round until Ramirez just started to punish him again. It was like whatever wave Shimizu threw at him, Ramirez just came back like 3 times harder. And that's what he did in that case as well. Absolutely punished him by the end of the 4th. And as soon as the bell rung for the 5th, first punch thrown by Ramirez lands. I don't want to say that one rocked Shimizu, but it was the beginning of the end. It was the catalyst. A barrage of strikes after that. Left uppercut knocks him down. He gets the count, gets back up to his feet in a crazy just scene where he kind of gets up from the knee, takes a deep breath. That is Shimizu, spits out some blood, gets through the count, back at it. Standing TKO shortly after that. The ref steps in. Shimizu is tough. He kept walking forward. The ref had to separate it and say enough's enough, as he would have continued to walk forward and take unnecessary damage. What a great title defense by Robeisy Ramirez. Very impressed with his style. He made a counter-heavy, defense-heavy style of boxing very exciting. Maybe it was just because his opponent was a huge underdog coming into this one at plus 1,200. Clearly, the level was not there to take on this champion. Despite him going on a run and deserving that title shot, I am interested to see how Ramirez fares against harder hitting opponents who can put together better volume combos and maybe not as lanky as Shimizu, as the distance didn't really help him in this one. Congrats to Ramirez. What a great title defense.
Round 4. Fight!
All right, main event of the evening next, or main event of the morning for us. Naoya Inoue against cool boy Stephen Fulton. I didn't know too much about Fulton other than every US sporting network going into this fight. Every US boxing fan on Twitter, not every, but let's just say like 80%. They were saying that this guy's going to be the guy to beat Inoue. They were saying that this champion, defending his belts in Japan and enemy territory, was the guy to do it. He had more power. He's naturally bigger. He's more of a dog. He's more technical, like just everything. Now, again, I'm not the biggest boxing fan. I don't follow boxing as much as I do kickboxing, Muay Thai, and of course, mixed martial arts. However, I know who Inoue is. And furthermore, a lot of supporters of the City Life Project, of Kyle and my channel, they swoon over this guy. They say that he's their favorite boxer. He's so fun to watch. And though I've watched highlights, though I've watched a few fights here and there, I wasn't as invested going into those as I was going into watching this one this morning. And what an absolute treat it was. Honestly, it was an honor to watch this guy fight. In the main event of the evening, double champ on the line, undefeated status on the line. Fulton coming off a 13-month layoff. Naoya Inoue moving up a division, vacating the titles. Inoue was the minus 450 favorite coming into this one, which blew my mind given how much the North American sports media and fans were gaslighting Stephen Fulton. Now, I just want to say, too, before we get into the recap here, that Fulton seemed like he's a fine fighter. Put it this way, did not seem like a bad fighter in that fight. He didn't look terrible. Inoue just looked so much better. It was insane. It really was. I had to keep picking up my jaw. I kept dropping to the floor, ladies and gentlemen. And again, I'm not a boxing fan, and here I am swooning over this guy's technique. Anyways, let's dive right into it. Let's start with that stupid-ass rat tail. Man, just cut that. Get it out of here. We don't want to see that anymore. And by the way, you're fighting the monster with a rat tail? Come on. Inoue's stance, which didn't change the entire night. So stoic, so nice, and he's so composed. Throughout the entire fight, so composed. Beautiful jabs to the body early, level changed all fight, low lead hand. Honestly, that thing could pick a target and land every single strike, and it pretty much did. What I liked about Inoue's jab too, with that low lead hand, was he was able to kind of fake the jab and quickly change it to a left hook on the body or to the side of the head, which he employed tremendously all fight. Inoue was definitely more active in the first, and throughout most of the round was more so the active fighter. Fulton, funny enough, became a little bit more active in the 6th, 7th, and even 8th round. But the level changes and jab were Inoue's bread and butter in that first round, and Fulton barely got any strikes on him. I think it was like 3 or 4. He was pressuring Fulton early. However, that would kind of go back and forth throughout the fight, but definitely Inoue dictating where the fight was being fought for the most part, as Fulton was forced to kind of rush in whenever he wanted to get a shot off early, as he was swinging and missing in the first 4 rounds on pretty much all his combos, and he couldn't figure out his jab at all, forcing him to have to step in and throw a flurry of shots in the pocket. The 4-punch combos that Inoue employed in the second round and throughout the fight, guys, like, I haven't seen 4-punch combos with that much power come off so quick. Insanely fast hands for how much power he has behind them. Again, Inoue is just such a joy to watch. And by the second, Fulton still hadn't found the range, guys. Fulton still hadn't found the range by the end of the second round. A lot of swinging, a lot of missing, a lot of having to abandon his great footwork and, side-to-side work to just rush in and blitz. To start that third round, Inoue employed such a beautiful combo. Double left jab, right hand, and then he sniped with the right hook. So double left jab, right hand, double left jab, straight right hand, and then right hook. But that right hook was a snipe of a shot. That was the hardest one. So quick, so clean. And it seemed like Fulton knew it was coming, just didn't have time to react. Fulton still missing with the jab at this point. Tremendous footwork, tremendous head movement as well by Inoue. Now, it's not like he didn't get hit at all in the first few rounds, but honestly, guys, it was so little compared to parts of the 6th and definitely the 7th, which the 7th was arguably Fulton's best round, but we'll get there in a sec. Inoue is so strong, so powerful, and I cannot believe that he had that type of power also at 105 and 115. I guess I can believe it now that he's showing it off at 125. Like, his jab was causing Fulton's head to move back. Fulton was only able to let his hands go when he was in the pocket, and he looked very stiff at range. Inoue does cover so much ground and space, and that allowed him to be able to step in with those hooks and jabs. Like, when he steps in with those hooks and jabs, the amount of space that he covers is absolutely insane. His stance is pretty wide, but not too wide that it leaves himself open at all, leaves his body open at all. Again, just such a joy to watch. So crisp and clean in his technique. And what was so interesting about Inoue's left jab is, and I said this earlier, it could change to a hook so fast that I didn't even know what to call it at times, as it just kind of followed the head, as his hand, his style with his right hand kind of a little bit closer, his left hand out, kind of a lower, wider stance. And he had that left hand just hanging there. Wherever Fulton's head went, he followed it. So sometimes I feel like it was intended to be a jab, but it came off as a hook because it was almost like a magnet following Fulton's head there. It was truly incredible. In this 4th round, though, was the first round in the entire fight where Fulton started to land a little bit at range and started to employ some of the footwork that he leaned on so much in his run to become champion. Up to this point, the 4th round was Fulton's best round, but having said best round means nothing because Inoue still schooled him. It was still Inoue's round. Inoue's 1-2s, guys, just as simple 1-2s were damaging. That second shot every time made Fulton wince. Inoue's jab may as well just be a straight left at this point. It's so freaking strong. So far, he was dictating pace, where the fight was taking place, and he was kind of forcing Fulton to either fight at the distance or brawl in close. And for every shot, for every flurry, for every combo that Fulton landed, Inoue was right back at him with either a combo of his own or honestly just a harder shot or punishing him with the jab. The level changes with the jab too when he went low and high, especially in that 4th round. Again, you could see it hurting Fulton more than any of the shots that Fulton landed on Inoue. Now, Fulton did land a few good rights, a few good overhands, but nothing really damaging to the body at all up to this point, going into the 5th or in the last 3 rounds of this fight either. As the bell for the 5th round started, Inoue turned it up. And I say that not necessarily throwing more volume strikes, not necessarily throwing more combos, which he did at points in that round, but every time he threw a punch, it was just a lot harder. And I didn't think he could hit any harder up to this point because it looked like he was piecing up Fulton in the first 4 rounds anyways. But no, talk about managing your gas tank. Talk about cardio control. Talk about professionalism and being one of the greatest. Because as soon as the 5th round started, it was almost like he hit a new gear. More hard shots, more straight punches, more combos over just relying on that jab to the body and that left hook, that speedy left hook. And at this point, Fulton is in the fight, whereas in the first 3 rounds, he was not. He couldn't even get any strikes. At this point, he's landing strikes as well. For every shot he lands, Inoue answers and punishes him. Counter lefts are landing pretty much every single time Inoue throws him at this point in the fight. And it wasn't a bad 5th round for Fulton. Having said all that, it wasn't a bad round for Fulton, but wasn't a bad round is the best compliment I can give him throughout this fight, because he didn't win any of the rounds. Clear victory every single round by Inoue. And by the 6th, Fulton was pressuring Inoue as he had to adapt, as his game plan coming in was not working and Inoue was schooling him. And even on the back foot, Inoue was landing way more step back strikes than Fulton was landing on the offense. So accurate, taking steps forward or back with his right and left hooks. Fulton at this point, when he was blitzing, was throwing massive overhands either to start the blitz or end it as well. Neither of the 2 big ones that I noted in that 6th round landed. At the start of the 7th, Fulton lands his best punch of the night, a beautiful right hand. And that one seemed to like tag and actually hurt Inoue for the first time in the fight. And again, I'm not trying to disrespect Fulton here. I'm just saying I do not think he hurt Inoue throughout this entire fight. I think that one actually hurt him and he was like, okay, that was a good shot. I've said it how many times now? His hands are so quick. They're like bombs when they connect. And shout out to the Japanese crowd, which is another reason why I love Japanese MMA and kickboxing. So quiet during the action. Like they'll cheer their boy on when he lands a good strike, but so quiet you can hear the corner and instructions of both of the fighters, as well as the shots hit the face and body so clean that they echo throughout the arena. Inoue at this point was just making it look easy against a champion. This is a championship fight for double champ status, for 2 belts, and he made it look easy. Double left jab, then left hook in like a second's time. Man, right after that right hand by Fulton too. At this point, 7 rounds in, there's no damage on Inoue. I can't even see any bruising. Fulton bruised under his eyes and nose bleeding at this point. 7 rounds in, he got outboxed. Technique-wise, IQ, power, speed, footwork, the whole 9 yards. And it's not like he is a bad boxer. It's not like he put on a terrible performance. It's not like he made a lot of mistakes. It was just Inoue was 1 step ahead of him and hell, even sometimes 5 steps ahead of him in every single area of boxing in this fight. And ultimately what took him out, 1 minute and 14 seconds of the 8th round, body shot, right hand. He was not just knocked down, he was flat to the ground. Gets the count, gets back up to his feet, and Inoue, oh man, like a predator who smelt blood, was just on him. Big hooks. And finally, a left one to ultimately put him out, knock him down. Ref comes in, TKO. Again, he made it look easy against a champion and knew no damage on his face, on his body at all. Pure domination at home in Japan, no less. 4-division world champion. And he's just insanely well-rounded. He's such a complete boxer. I'm speechless. I really am. 20 minutes into a video and I'm speechless, folks. I love mixed martial arts. I love kickboxing and Muay Thai more than just the sweet science of boxing. But I respect it. And I love good fights. And I love seeing boxers who don't necessarily just punch and clinch. And I feel like the Japanese fighters do that so well, which is evident on this card. I'm so excited to see more of his fights and to see what he does at this weight class moving forward as a champion. Shout out to our friend Brandor, subscriber to the channel. I appreciate you guys joining us for this recap. Let me know your thoughts on the card. Let me know your thoughts on any of the fights as well as the main event in the comments below. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.